Hello. Welcome. To Australian literature session. Ready, guys? Australian literature is awesome. There are many syllabi also based on Australian literature these days. I'm excited to talk to you about Australian literature. I'm sure you will get a lot of questions from here. Can you hear me? Yeah. So while people are joining, let me give you just a quick overview of Australian literature. Thank you everyone for joining me today. Australian literature is comparatively new. Australian settlement started very late, and it is recently that lots of writers have begun to emerge from Australia. Long before that, we had writers from the other countries like Australia, like Canada, Caribbean islands, etc. Australian literature can be divided into an early Aboriginal period about which no documents are there, but today there's a lot of revival of Aboriginal literature, right? And after that started the colonial period. The colonial period started in the 18th century when the first fleet landed in Australia, the first fleet of settlers. That was in 1788, end of 18th century. And after that, Australian literature slowly began. At first, there were diaries, journals, letters, travelogues, etc. as usual. And then, when 100 years of settlement was over, in 1888, there was the spirit of nationalism. Before that, Australian literature is called the period of colonialism. Colonial period in Australian literature. There you have bush literature. You know that in Australia there's a lot of wilderness. There are Aboriginal tribes living there at the beginning. There were Aboriginal tribes, but the white people thought this is terra nullius, or nobody is living here. Like that they thought. And in Australian literature, this wilderness is a very important influence. Did you understand? This wilderness is an important influence. And the uninhabited places near the cities are called bushes. There's a lot of bush literature in Australian history. And you know, the earliest settlers in Australia were convicts. Because the prisons of Britain were full, there wasn't enough space for prisoners. Prisoners were sent to Australia and exiled to Australia. So the earliest writers and people living in Australia were prisoners, right? Watkin Tench is a very major convict writer. Have you heard of Watkin Tench? Yeah. So Watkin Tench wrote a complete account of the settlement at Port Jackson. You know, that is his most famous work. Marcus Clarke also wrote early Australian literature. For the term of his natural life, Marcus Clarke was a convict who was running away from the police. Did you understand? So early Australian literature is bush literature, colonial literature, and pastoral literature. These are the terms for Australian literature. Welcome, Suj Pandey. Everybody, please remember to like the video. Right. I'm going to tell you a lot of useful information here. You will get questions from here in UPHESE, NTA NET and SET. Okay. Right. So early literature I was talking about, Watkin Tench, Marcus Clarke, Charles Wentworth, etc. And now I will go on to play a game with you. We will look at all the major works in Australian literature. You have to tell me the authors. Once more, before we go into the game, first there was Aboriginal literature, which was oral. Then there was colonial literature, which is pastoral and bush literature. After that, there is nationalist literature and modern literature. Did you understand? Yes. Australian literature. Please log into our website Total English Solutions and do all the free courses. The free courses there are awesome. It is very structured. You will get an overview of everything. Okay? Right. Game time. Summer of the 17th doll, Bolo. It is about bush life. Is it by Alan Curnow or Ray Lawler? I have made a video on it. Probably you have seen it. It's a very major play. It changed Australian literature. Summer of the 17th doll is by Ray Lawler. Ray Lawler. Alan Curnow is incidentally a New Zealand writer. Ray Lawler's Summer of the 17th doll shows Australian landscape changing. The bushmen or the drovers are out of jobs. They are frustrated. They are not happy. Did you understand? 17 years have passed like this. They were actually at the beginning okay, but now in the 17th year, they are all frustrated. That is the story of Summer of the 17th doll. I hope you will remember. Next. Bush studies. I forgot to mark the answer. I am marking the answer because you will get the PDF in our Telegram group. Absolutely free. There is no need to pay any money. All the newcomers, please join our Telegram group. Okay, you can just WhatsApp me and you will automatically get the Telegram link. What do you want me to explain? Summer of the 17th doll. I've already made a video. You should watch the video. I explained already. It is about bush life that is changing. Okay, the bushmen are out of work now. They are frustrated. Their relationships are all breaking down. That is Ray Lawler's Summer of the 17th doll. Correct. Alan Curnow is the author of House and Land and Time. They are place. Okay, I will explain everything. Don't worry. Now, Bush Studies is a very important book on Bush studies. It is a book of Bush literature. Who is the author? Bush Studies. There are many important Bush writers. There was also the very famous woman writer who took a pen name. Her name was Ethel Richardson. And she took the pen name Henry Handel Richardson. She wrote The Fortunes of Richard Mahoney. Bush Studies is by Barbara Bainton. Bush Studies by Barbara Bainton. Shall I, with your permission, add one more question here? I'm going to add one more question here because that is important. The Fortunes of Richard Mahoney. Is it by Barbara Bainton or is it by Henry Handel Richardson? Say, it is by Henry Handel Richardson. It is by Henry Handel Richardson. Okay, The Fortunes of Richard Mahoney. Remember, guys, during the colonial period, there was a gold rush in Australia. Henry Handel Richardson wrote based on the gold rush. The Fortunes of Richard Mahoney is based on the gold rush. What do you mean by gold rush? Gold rush means... Migam, did you come in late? I just explained Bush. Again, you are asking. You have this problem. You come in late, I suppose. Again, I will explain. No problem, Migam. Because many people would have come in late. I will explain, okay? In Bush, there was gold rush. That means gold was discovered. What do you mean by Bush? Those who came early... Bush means the unsettled land outside the cities. There's a lot of unsettled land in Australia, and outside the cities there is the bush. That means the wilderness, where the convicts are escaping and they are hiding from the police. And bush literature existed in Australia for a long time. The people living in the bushes were called drovers or swagmen. Okay, thank you, Nigam. Because you asked me again, many people would have understood. Thank you. Fortunes of Richard Mahoney is by Henry Handel Richardson and it is based on the gold rush. Did you understand? Next question. Working Bullocks. Tell me, who is the author of Working Bullocks? Yeah. Working Bullocks is by an early woman writer. Is it Miles Franklin or Catherine Pritchard? Working Bullocks is by Catherine Pritchard. Okay. Working Bullocks is by Catherine Pritchard. She wrote this about early Australian culture. As you remember, this is pastoral period. Lots of people wrote about the bush and the pastoral life in Australia. James Tucker wrote Ralph Rashley. James Waugh. You know, the language that was spoken in Australian bushes was called what? It was called flash language. Do you know that? It was called flash language. And in the bush, there was also poetry. Who is the major poet who wrote Waltzing Matilda? Who is the major poet who wrote Waltzing Matilda? I will add that for you because if I type it here, it will be able for you to remember. Hannah, Waltzing Matilda. Tell me, it is written by, is it Miles Franklin or A.B. Patterson? Very good. Many of you are saying the correct answer. Flash language is the language spoken by the convicts. It's like a dialect. Yes, flash language. It is A.B. Patterson who wrote Waltzing Matilda. Okay, don't forget. Now, let me ask you another question. My Brilliant Career. Who is the author? Who is the author of My Brilliant Career? The highest literary award in Australia is named after her. The highest literary award in Australia is named after the author. It is Miles Franklin. My Brilliant Career is written by Miles Franklin. That's right. It has a stature of a national anthem. Migam, I am teaching Australian literature. Not American. Australian literature, okay? Right. We are talking about Australian bush literature. My Brilliant Career is by Miles Franklin. Miles Franklin Award is the highest award in Australia. Got it, guys? Everybody? What did Catherine Pritchard write below? It is Working Bullocks. Working Bullocks. From the name itself, you know now, it is bush work. It is about the pastoral life in Australia. Hannah? Right. Now, next question. Are you enjoying this, guys? Tell me, are you enjoying this? After this game, we will have quizzes, okay? Yeah, arey bola. Ayyo bhi bolungi. All that swagger. All that swagger. Who is the author? Is it Miles Franklin or Catherine Pritchard? Bolo? Is it Miles Franklin or Catherine Pritchard? All that swagger. It is again Miles Franklin. Miles Franklin wrote My Brilliant Career and All That Swagger. Okay, remember? All right. All That Swagger by Miles Franklin. Such is Life. It is a very major novel. Are you here to tease me or to learn from me? Bolo. You are teasing me because I'm saying Bolo. Hannah, Tiger. Such is Life is by Joseph Furphy. Do you know Joseph Furphy is the father of modern Australian literature? He was a major novelist. Such is Life is by Joseph Furphy. Very famous, okay? Don't forget. I want you to tease me. I like it. Such is Life by Joseph Furphy. Okay? The Loaded Dog. Obviously, it is written set against the gold rush. Loaded dog क्यों होगा? Because it is the gold rush. Loaded Dog. Who is the author? Who is the author? It is not Joseph Surf. I know, when you tease me, we will remember more. You know, ma'am said, ayyo, at this time. I remember. This is the answer. Like that, you will remember in the exam. A.D. Hope is not the only one. There are so many authors. So many authors. The Loaded Dog is by Henry Lawson. Henry Lawson was a major short story writer. Guys, do you know there was a major periodical in Australian literature called The Bulletin. The Bulletin. The Bulletin. The major writers were Henry Lawson and A.B. Patterson. Clear, everyone? Henry Lawson and A.B. Patterson. Okay? Very good. Now, please study well. Please study well, because if these questions come, wow, you will remember, you will write the answers and you will tell me, ma'am, it was easy. Oh, the day after NET exam, I can't remember, I can't imagine what it will be like. Many of you will tell me we remembered everything. It was awesome. Exam was easy. You will remember, I know. Read extra also, okay? Loaded means what? Loaded with gold, obviously, Nigam. Migam, loaded with gold because it's gold rush. Loaded with gold. Big dog it must be. Henry Lawson's story. Henry Lawson also wrote The Drover's Wife. The Drover's Wife. Did you understand, everybody? Up the country. Bolo, kisne likha? Up the country. Up the country. Kisne likha? That day after NET, YouTube will explode. We won't learn anything. I will come online just to chat with you, okay? Right. And we will have an awesome time. Yes. Up the Country. It is again by Miles Franklin. So, no, there are so many books that you know already. My Brilliant Career. Then Up the Country. Then All That Swagger. All That Swagger. Did you understand? Okay. Let us be excited and happy and confident. Okay. Be excited, happy, confident. Think positively. Revise. Think, oh my God, I have studied much, a lot. I'm getting closer and closer. Okay. Very good. My Place. Who is it by? My Place is a very famous book by an Aboriginal writer. An Aboriginal writer who wrote based on her own life and family. My Place is based on the life and family of an Aboriginal writer. Bolo, kaun hai? Haan, you know, I know. You are not answering only because there is lag in YouTube. It is definitely Sally Morgan. You are right. Sally Morgan wrote My Place. My Place is an autobiography with elements of a detective story. Okay, guys? My Place has elements of a detective story. It presents the author's quest for her past. She is in a quest for her family's past. That is why I am explaining, Migam. Every title I already explained. She is talking about her family's past, and it is like a detective story. She is going back into her past and writing about her family and her place. Did you understand, everyone? It is Sally Morgan. My Place is by Sally Morgan. My Place by Sally Morgan. She's talking about her place, her family, and it has written like a autobiography. Okay, it is written like an autobiography. Where are you going? Municipal Gum and Namajira. These are stories, okay? These are stories. Where are you going? I don't know the theme of the story, sorry. But it is written by a person with a pen name. Where are you going? It is Aboriginal. That is why Namajira. It is Udgaru Nunukal. Recently, in one exam, they asked Udgaru Nunukal. Udgaru Nunukal is the pen name, or the, not pen name, the Aboriginal name of Kath Walker. Udgaru Nunukal is Kath Walker. Will you remember? Where are you going? Municipal Gum and Namajira. Remember? These are stories by Udgaru Nunukal. Udgaru. G is missing. Udgaru Nunukal. Okay, guys? Now, shall I move on? I don't know the meaning of these story titles, Migam. Whenever I know, I will explain. No Sugar is a play by, it's a play, okay? No Sugar is a play by, you know this author, because today I put one video on a poem by this author. Bolo. No Sugar. Who is it? I made a video on this author today. It is a post-colonial play set during the Great Depression. Okay? And it is about the marginalization of the Aboriginal Australians. It is about racism. The isolation that the Aboriginal people experience. It is part of the Firstborn trilogy. It is part of the Firstborn trilogy. No Sugar. Will you remember? No Sugar is a famous play by Jack Davis. Today, I put a video in YouTube. Jack Davis's Aboriginal Australia. Remember? Jack Davis's Aboriginal Australia. Migam, that would be wonderful if you write a story called No Tea. No Sugar and No Tea. Jack Davis wrote No Sugar. Migam Dole will write No Tea. Wonderful. That is the clue we will remember. Jack Davis and Migam Dole are going to write, okay? Aboriginal Australia by Jack Davis. Follow the Rabbit-Proof Fence. That story I will explain. Who wrote it? It is about three girls rather. Follow the Rabbit-Proof Fence is about three I think. They are escaping from their, reservation camp, and they are walking along an electrified fence to the north of Australia. There is a fence, big fence dividing Australia at that time. They are walking along the fence and they are escaping. It was based on Doris Pilkington Garimara's own mother's own family story. It is Doris Pilkington Garimara. Okay, Doris Pilkington Garimara wrote Follow the Rabbit-Proof Fence. It's also a famous movie. There is a famous movie also called Follow the Rabbit-Proof Fence. Okay? Now, Carpenteria. Who is the author? Who is the author of Carpenteria? You know, Carpenteria won Miles Franklin Award. It is also written by a woman writer. There are many Aboriginal women writers. Both these are Aboriginal women writers. Carpenteria is her second novel. It is by Alexie Wright. Carpenteria is by Alexie Wright. It contains interconnected stories of several people living in the fictional town of Desperance. Fictional town Desperance. It is set in the fictional town Desperance. Will you remember, guys? It is set in the fictional town Desperance, okay? And Aboriginal people are engaged in conflicts, etc. This fictional town of Desperance, listen to me, of course, Carpenteria is the name of a place. This fictional town of Desperance is in the fictional space called, it is in the fictional space called Carpenteria. Did you understand? It is in the fictional place called Carpenteria. That is the meaning of the title. Fictional town of Desperance in Carpenteria. It is by Alexie Wright. Alexie Wright. Okay, Priyanka. Right, guys. Are you ready for the next question? Ta-da-dang! Wild cat falling. This person wrote a lot of books on wild cat. Again, Aboriginal Australian. Tell me who is the author? Aboriginal Australian. It depicts the life of a bodgy. What is a bodgy? B-O-D-G-I-E. Bodgy means Rock culture. Person from rock culture. The protagonist is a Bodji, a person from rock culture. Protagonist is a Bodji, a person from rock music culture. समझ रहे हो? नज नहीं, Bodji. Wild cat falling. Don't forget, okay? Who is the author? It is Mudruru. What is the real name of Mudruru? It is Colin Johnson. Mudruru is Colin Johnson. Mudruru wrote Wild Cat Falling. Protagonist is a Bodji, a person from rock music culture. What did Alexi Wright write? Alexi Wright wrote Carpenteria. Mudruru wrote Wild Cat Falling. What did Udgaru Nunukal write? Bolo? What did Udgaru Nunukal write? Udgaru Nunukal wrote, where are you going? Municipal Gum and Namajira. Remember? Right. A Town Like Alice. It is a very famous novel actually. A Town Like Alice. Bolo, किसने लिखा? Guys, did you like the video, everyone? Please like the video. A Town Like Alice is about a young English woman falling in love with a prisoner of the Second World War in Malaya. Yeah, she turns a small community into a big town like Alice Springs. Alice Springs is a big town in Australia. Alice Springs is a big town in Australia. And this woman, protagonist, she turns a small community into a big town like Alice Springs. It is by Neville Shute. A Town Like Alice is by Neville Shute. Not Morris West. It is Neville Shute. Please like the video, guys. The Twyborn Affair. Bolo. Who is the author of The Twyborn Affair? Very famous writer it is. Very famous writer. It is a novel in 3 parts. The Twyborn Affair is a novel in 3 parts set before the First World War and also right up to the Second World War. The Twyborn Affair is about a man who is dressing up like a woman in order to win his mother's love. A man is dressing up as a woman in order to get his mother's love. Strange, isn't it? Of course, it is Patrick White. Patrick White. Shall I just stop for a minute and tell you about Patrick White, guys? Patrick White's first novel is Happy Valley. Patrick White's first novel, Happy Valley, 1939, year in which Second World War began. Second World War and Patrick White's career both began in 1939. After that came the Aunt's story. The Tree of Man, Was, Riders in the Chariot, The Solid Mandala, The Vivisector, The Eye of the Storm, A Fringe of Leaves, The Twyborn Affair, Memoirs of Many in One, and The Hanging Garden. Arey, you didn't understand, did you? No problem. I am going to type here. I'm going to type. Little bit we will type. Okay? Ta-da-dang. Okay. It is Patrick White. Tell me, what are the novels? I will tell the beginning, you tell the rest. First is Happy Valley, The Aunt's Story, then The Tree of Man, then Was. Can you see, everyone? Then Riders in the Chariot. Then the Solid Mandala. Then the Vivisector. Then the Eye of the Storm. Then a Fringe of Leaves. Then the Twiborn Affair. Then क्या है? Memoirs of Many in One. And last is the Hanging Garden. The Hanging Garden. We can make some code and remember, okay? If you make some code, you will remember easily, Hana? Yeah. So these are the major novels of Patrick White. Did you understand, everybody? So many novels he has written. Very famous is Was, Hana? Right. Now next is Wandering Islands. Who is the author of Wandering Islands? This is the first published work by, who wrote Wandering Islands? A.D. Hope. First published work by A.D. Hope. Okay? Right. Then your attention please everybody. Your attention please everybody. River Run, River Quatrains. All these are by. Your attention please everybody. River Run, River Quatrains. This your attention please is prescribed for UPHESE. UPHESE. Patrick White won Nobel Prize. Yes, he was the first Australian to win Nobel Prize. That was in 1973. Patrick White's Nobel Prize came in 1973. Your attention please everybody. It is by Peter Porter. Peter बोल रहे हैं सब लोग. Peter कौन सा Peter? Goldsworthy या Porter? It is Porter. Peter Porter. UPHESE में prescribed है. Your attention please. Okay. Then The Cake Man. It is a major play. Did you know that? The Cake Man is a play. Who wrote The Cake Man? The Cake Man is a play by, who is the author? It is about Indigenous Australians. The Cake Man is about Indigenous Australians. It is Robert J. Merritt. Robert J. Merritt. Robert J. Merritt wrote it about Indigenous Australians. Robert J. Merritt is also Indigenous Australian. Okay? It is a classic of American theatre. The Cake Man is a classic of American theatre. Okay, Jono. Who is the author? Jono. Who is the author of that? Is the first novel by Jono is the first novel by which writer? It is a semi-autobiographical novel. Jono is the debut novel and a semi-autobiographical novel by David Malouf. David Malouf is a very major author. Which is the book by David Malouf that tells the story of Ovid? Which novel by David Malouf tells the story of Ovid? Bolo? David Malouf's novel about Ovid is An Imaginary Life. He wrote An Imaginary Life about Ovid. Now, would you like me to write out all the names of his works? So that when you get the PDF, you will be able to study. Those who are new to our channel, please WhatsApp me and get the PDF, okay? I am sending my WhatsApp number. WhatsApp me 9037357688. WhatsApp me and get the Telegram link and then get the PDF. Now, David Malouf is the author of the first novel, Jono. Then he wrote An Imaginary Life. Then what did he write? He wrote Fly Away Peter. It is about war, okay? War, Fly Away Peter. Then he wrote Child's Play. Child's Play. Then Harlan's Half Acre. Harlan's Half Acre. Then he wrote The Great World. The Great World. Then he wrote the book that I have studied in MA, Remembering Babylon. I studied Remembering Babylon in MA. Will you remember? Will you remember, everyone? Remembering Babylon. Then Conversations at Curlow Creek. Conversations at Curlow Creek. Also important. Then Ransom. Did you know it is based on Iliad? Ransom is based on Iliad. An Imaginary Life is based on Ovid's life. Will you remember, guys? Important writer. Zoom karna hai. I will increase the size. Just a minute, guys. Sorry. अभी तो दिख रहा है ना? अभी देख सकते हो? जॉनो, अरे जॉनो को जॉन बना दिया. Jono, An Imaginary Life, Fly Away Peter, Blood Relations by Sharon Pollock है ना? Malouf भी है क्या? हाँ, David Malouf, play, correct. Yeah. Blood Relations is a play. Okay, guys, everybody. Did you get everything correctly? Thank you. Now, I am moving on to the next slide, okay? Right. Yeah. Nominated for Booker. It was very important play. Blood Red Sister Rose. Who is the author? Blood Red Sister Rose. It is by Thomas Keneally, and it is. I will send it in Telegram. Don't worry. It is based on Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc's story. Blood Red Sister Rose by Thomas Keneally is based on Joan of Arc's story. Remember that, okay? Guys. Oh, okay, I will respond on Telegram. I'm not getting time, Sunita. That is why. I will respond, okay? Sorry. Thomas Keneally का books जानते हो आप लोग? Which are the works by Thomas Keneally? Bring Larks and Heroes. 1 minute, okay? I will just increase the size first so that you can see as I write. Bring Larks and Heroes. Then 3 Cheers for the Paraclete. The Survivor. Then A Dutiful Daughter. It is a fantasy, okay? A Dutiful Daughter is a fantasy. One daughter's parents, they have, their legs are like cattle. Then The Chant of Jimmy Blacksmith. And the very famous novel is Schindler's Ark. Schindler's Ark. I have written only the very major ones. There is also, a few more are there. Jacko. Can you see everybody? Before Schindler's Ark, there is Jacko. Jono is by David Malouf. Jacko is by Thomas Keneally. What is fantasy? Means imagination. It is not realistic, unrealistic. Now, honk if you are Jesus. Bolo, kaun hai? Honk if you are Jesus. It is by Peter Goldsworthy. Before that, I want to write some another author's works. Who is that? Peter Carey. I want to write the works of Peter Carey, okay? Peter Carey, very important. Haven't you heard of Peter Carey, everybody? I'm sure everybody knows Peter Carey. What are the books by Peter Carey? First novel by Peter Carey is Bliss. Bliss is the first novel. Then Illivaka. Bliss, then Illivaka. Then Oscar and Lucinda. Then Jack Maggs, based on Great Expectations. Jack Maggs. Then True History of the Kelly Gang. Oscar and Lucinda and True History of the Kelly Gang got Booker. Hannah, Oscar and Lucinda and True History of the Kelly Gang. Both of these got Booker. Or are there? More are there? My Life as a Fake. Then Parrot and Olivier in America. Parrot and Olivier in America. The Chemistry of Tears. The Chemistry of Tears. Yeah. So many works are there. Wonderful writer he is, Peter Carey. Please read about Peter Carey, okay guys? Wonderful, wonderful. Now, honk if you are Jesus, we said that. Array, this is just a unnecessary slide. Nothing is there. Okay, now ready for quiz? Are you ready for quiz, everyone? Yeah. Please, I'm sending the WhatsApp number again. Then you will get Telegram link and you can join Telegram, okay? 9037357688. Did you all join the literary terms video, guys? Did you all join the literary terms video? Let me ask you a few questions. I promised in that session that I will ask. Meanwhile, please like the video, everyone. Who wrote Problems and Paradoxes? Bolo. Which Renaissance author wrote Problems and Paradoxes? Bolo. Problems and Paradoxes is by John Donne. I must be cruel only to be kind. Who said? I must be cruel only to be kind. Who said that? Bolo, it is Hamlet. Hamlet. Who is the author of Lalla Rookh? Who is the author of Lalla Rookh? Lallarookhh. It is the romantic poet Thomas More. Thomas More. Who said the Orient is a career? Who said the Orient is a career? It is Benjamin Disraeli. Benjamin Disraeli. And who wrote a famous poem on the immortal memory and friendship of two people? On the immortal memory and friendship of two people? That is Ben Jonson. Ben Jonson. Okay, so that was about the literary terms. Now, quiz time, guys. Ready, everyone? Absolutely amazing quizzes. First question to you. Ta-da-dang. Bring the Monkey is a mystery novel by Bring the Monkey. Who wrote this mystery novel? If you don't know before, you will be amazed to know this person wrote it. Who wrote the mystery novel Bring the Monkey? It is Miles Franklin. Bring the Monkey is by Miles Franklin. Did you know that? Amazing, isn't it? You never knew. I didn't know either. Today only I learned. With you I learned. Okay. Next question. Ready, everyone? Bring the Monkey. I don't know the story. Otherwise, I could have told you the story. Do you want me to tell you something about it? I can try. Just give me a minute. Bring the Monkey by Franklin. It's a famous novel. Oh, she has written so many. Prelude to Waking, Pioneers on Parade. It is a crime novel. It's a crime and detective novel, Bring the Monkey. Mystery involving a murder and theft of jewels. Murder and theft of jewels. Did you understand, everyone? Right. The Turning is a collection of short stories by The Turning. This man has written a lot of books about climate change. Climate change. He won Miles Franklin Award 4 times. He is an environmentalist. It is Tim Winton. So no, Tim Winton is an environmentalist. Okay, what are the other works by Tim Winton, do you know? Tim Winton other works. मैं लिखूं क्या? I can write if you want. Tim Winton other works. देखो, Tim Winton. An Open Swimmer. Then I will write only the major ones. Cloud Street. Cloud Street. Then Dirt Music. Cloud Street, Dirt Music, Breath, Irie. And he has written many short story collections. Also short story collections. These are all novels. Will you remember, everyone? Thank you, Vijay. I heard it. Thank you, Vijay. Small Mercies bhi hai. I don't know. Small Mercies, I don't know. Dikh nahi raha yahan. Then Cloud Street, Dirt Music, Breath. Then Shallows was there before. That is also famous. Then Blueback. Before Dirt Music, there was Blueback. Remember all this, okay? These are very important. Tim Winton. Okay, next. Felix Moore, a journalist, is the protagonist in which novel of Peter Carey? Which novel of Peter Carey has the journalist Felix Moore as protagonist? It is Amnesia. It is Amnesia. Listen, guys, let me tell you a few things. Are you ready to listen? Peter Carey's Bliss is a farcical black comedy, okay? Peter Carey's Bliss is a farcical black comedy. Illivacker is a novel with science fiction elements and the title means trickster. Illivacker, the title means trickster. Oscar and Lucinda is about Oscar, an Anglican priest, and Lucinda, an heiress. They are meeting on a train, I think. Ship. They are meeting on a ship and both are gamblers. Oscar is asked by Lucinda, there is a bet between them that Oscar can transport a glass church from one place to another. Okay, so that is Oscar and Lucinda. Jack Maggs is set in 19th century London. It is based on Great Expectations. True History of the Kelly Gang is based on Ned Kelly, the bushranger and outlaw. True History of the Kelly Gang is based on Ned Kelly, the bushranger and the outlaw. Guys, please like the video. Next novel is My Life as a Fake. My Life as a Fake is about a literary hoax. A literary hoax. Parrot and Olivier in America. I don't know about it. It is shortlisted for Commonwealth Writers' Prize. And The Chemistry of Tears is about a clock expert who is restoring an automaton, a robot. A clock expert is restoring a robot. That is the story of The Chemistry of Tears. Okay, one more question, guys. Jack Maggs is by Peter Carey based on Great Expectations. Who wrote Mr. Pip based on Great Expectations? Who wrote Mr. Pip based on Great Expectations? Bolo. Mr. Pip is by Lloyd Jones. Mr. Pip is by Lloyd Jones. Are you getting me? Can you hear me? Yeah, Lloyd Jones. Okay, guys. Next question to you. Ready? Which work of Patrick White deals with the story of two brothers, Waldo and Arthur Brown? Which work by Patrick White is the story of two brothers, Waldo and Arthur Brown? Bolo. Which work by Patrick White? It is The Solid Mandala. There's some symbiotic relationship. Solid Mandala. Don't forget, okay? Then, Jono is a semi-autobiographical novel by, I already asked you. Jono is a semi-autobiographical novel by the author of Remembering Babylon. Jono is by David Malouf. David Malouf. Okay, what did Alexi Wright write? Alexi Wright wrote Carpenteria. Right. The Sound of One Hand Clapping is an Australian drama based on the novel of the same and is directed by Dash. The Sound of One Hand Clapping. It's a drama film based on the novel of the same man. It is Richard Flanagan. Richard Flanagan got Booker Prize for Narrow Road to the Deep North. Hannah? Narrow Road to the Deep North by Richard Flanagan. He got Booker for it. Got it? Yes. Next question is, Bring Larks and Heroes, winner of Miles Franklin Award, is a novel by Bring Larks and Heroes. It is a novel by Thomas Kenny Lee. I just wrote it now, I typed it. Thomas Kenny Lee wrote Bring Larks and Heroes. Which writer is better known by his pen name Mudruru? One Hand Clapping is by Richard Flanagan. Richard Flanagan. Narrow Road to the Deep North is also a play by Edward Bond. Edward Bond wrote play. Narrow Road to the Deep North and also The Bundle or The New Narrow Road to the Deep North, both by Edward Bond. Colin Thomas Johnson is the name of Mudruru. Mudruru's real name is Colin Johnson. The Female Eunuch is a feminist work by the Australian writer. Which Australian writer wrote The Female Eunuch? It is Germaine Greer. She is a very major feminist. The Female Eunuch is by Germaine Greer. She got into a debate with Salman Rushdie, etc. The Wandering Islands is the debut poetry collection of The Wandering Islands. We did it earlier. I'm just revising some. It is A.D. Hope. A.D. Hope's major poems you should remember. What are usually prescribed you should remember. All right. Then, Woman to Man is the second poetry collection by... Who wrote Woman to Man? She is a famous writer, poet, as well as environmentalist. Like Tim Winton, Judith Hope is also an environmentalist. Judith Wright, not Judith Hope, like Tim Winton, Judith Wright is also an environmentalist. Okay, now next question to you. Crabs, Peeling, She Wakes. These are short stories by Crabs, Peeling, She Wakes. You won't believe it. It is Peter Carey. We know Peter Carey as a novelist, but Peter Carey is also a major short story writer. ठीक है? Will you remember? Which among these is the unfinished last novel by Patrick White? Bolo. The last unfinished novel by Patrick White कौन सा है? We typed it. It is The Hanging Garden. The Hanging Garden is the last unfinished novel by Patrick White. Okay, now ready for another? The action of the living and the dead opens at dash. Who wrote The Living and the Dead? The action of the living and the dead. Who wrote it? Yes, guys, tell me. Patrick White. The action of the living and the dead begins at Victoria Station. Book by Living and the Dead is by Patrick White. Patrick White is a very prolific writer. So many books he has written. Okay. Next. Dash is the capital of Australia. Arey, kya question aa gaya? Dash is the capital of Australia, bolo. It is Canberra. Australia, Canberra. Okay, next. The weekly that spearheaded the nationalist movement in Australian literature. Which is the weekly that spearheaded the nationalist movement in Australian literature? I told you, A.B. Patterson and Henry Lawson contributed to this periodical. Ta-da-dang! It is The Bulletin. The Bulletin. Associated with A.B. or Banjo Patterson and Henry Lawson. All right. Also other people. Which renowned Australian bush poet's fascination for horses led to the writing of his famous equestrian ballads. There was a writer who was famously fascinated by horses. He wrote equestrian ballads. Bolo, kaun hai? It is Banjo Paterson. Banjo Paterson. The name Banjo he took because it was the name of a horse. Banjo was the name of a horse. That is why he took that name. Who was the first native-born writer of Australia who was inspired by Wordsworth and Shelley? Bolo, which native-born writer was inspired by Wordsworth and Shelley? First native-born writer of Australia is Charles Harper. Charles Harper. Clear, everyone? Then, who wrote the first novel in Australia, Quintus Survington, which was an autobiographical crime novel? Australia, Quintus Survington, autobiographical crime novel, early. Henry Saver. Henry Saver. The essay Fiction Fields of Australia by Frederick Sinnett. It is the first account of Australian literature, okay? It appeared in Journal of Australasia. In which year? Oh, difficult question. Fiction Fields of Australia came in 1856. I'm just helping you remember 1856. Ralph Rashley, I just passingly mentioned it. Subtitle, The Life of an Exile, that accurately depicts the hard life of convicts, was written by Dash, who was an ex-convict himself. The author of Ralph Rashley was an ex-convict himself. It is James Tucker. James Tucker. James Tucker wrote Ralph Rashley. Okay. The Broad Arrow, the tale of a woman convict's life. Any idea? A woman convict's life. So Caroline Leakey. Caroline Leakey. Next. A member of the first settlement in Australia of 1788 recorded it all in a complete account of the settlement at Port Jackson. He wrote a complete account of the settlement at Port Jackson. Identify the author. A member of the first settlement in Australia. It is Watkin Tench. Watkin Tench. I mentioned him before. Then, the harsh lives of the natives of Australia was described in For the Term of His Natural Life. Who wrote? It is also called His Natural Life. Who is the author of this work? It is Marcus Clarke. My intention is just to give you a lot of questions and answers so that you will remember. Okay? Now, choose the Australian writer who compiled the Dictionary of Flash Language. Who compiled the Dictionary of Flash Language? James Waugh. James Waugh. Okay? Then, the first book by an Australian called A Satirical, Historical and Political Description of the Kunoni of South Wales. Ayyo, who is the author? It is William Charles Wentworth. All these questions are not to test your knowledge. It is just a means of giving you knowledge, okay? I'm just giving you knowledge. The Sunny South by George Darrell is set against Dash. The Sunny South by George Darrell is set against the Gold Rush. Gold Rush. Henry Handel Richardson, famous for The Fortunes of Richard Mahoney, was the pseudonym of Henry Handel Richardson is Ethel Florence Richardson. Are you loving this video or am I pressurizing you? Am I making it easy for you? Is it good, guys? I hope I'm not boring you. Now, Dash was the editor of the Australian weekly, The Bulletin. Bolo. Dash was the editor of the Australian weekly. It is J.F. Archibald. J.F. Archibald. Don't forget, okay? Then, Following the first centenary of settlement in Australia, on which day was it celebrated as National Day of Australia? When did the first fleet land? When did the first fleet land? It was on 26th January 1788. 26th January 1788, first fleet landed. First fleet landed, okay? 100 years after that, there was the celebration of National Centenary. Waltzing Matilda by Banjo Patterson. Waltzing Matilda by Banjo Patterson is the most famous bush ballad. It became an unofficial national anthem of Australia. In which year was it written? Array, tough question that is. In which year was it written? 1895. 1895. Then, who overcame his scarce education and partial deafness to become the father of Australian bush prose? The father of Australian bush prose was not educated. He was partially deaf also. Ayyo, it is Henry Lawson. Henry Lawson, remember, wrote The Drover's Wife, The Loaded Dog, remember? Right. Considered the father of the Australian novel, he wrote under the pseudonym Tom Collins. Who is the author? He is considered the father of the Australian novel. He wrote under the pseudonym Tom Collins. It is Joseph Furphy. Joseph Furphy. Okay? Now, who wrote the bold novel Cunardu or The Well in the Shadow? Cunardu or The Well in the Shadow. It is noted for its candid portrayal of the relationship between a white man and an Aboriginal woman. It is Catherine Susanna Pritchard. Catherine Susanna Pritchard wrote Cunardu as well as The Wild Working Bullocks. Cunardu and Working Bullocks. Remember? Now, The Drover's Wife that depicts the hardships of an unnamed woman protagonist. What is she doing? She is struggling to protect her family. Who wrote The Drover's Wife? She is struggling to protect her family in the bush. Drover's Wife, I mentioned already, is Henry Lawson. Henry Lawson. And next question. The experimental comic novel Such is Life. Who wrote the comic novel Such is Life? It bridges the late 1890s style with modernist innovations. That is why it is experimental. Such is Life is about 1890s style plus modernism. You already know it is by Joseph Furphy. Such is Life is by Joseph Furphy. Am I going too fast? Are you following me? I did not want to waste your time. That is why I went a little too fast. Speaking Personally was written by an essayist and academic who hailed from a prominent family. Wow, that name is a big name in the global media industry. Still, name the author. Speaking Personally, written by which essayist? It is Walter Murdoch, great uncle of Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch, है ना? His great grand uncle is Walter Murdoch. Will you remember? Now, the first major practitioner of modernism in Australia served as a war correspondent and wrote Beach Burial, South Country. Who is that? First major practitioner of modernism. Options are not visible. अरे अभी क्या कर सकते हैं? अभी तो छोड़ो, बस just a few more questions are there. You can look in the PDF. Okay, next time onwards I'll increase the size. Next time onwards I'll increase the size. It is Kenneth Slessor. Kenneth Slessor. Sorry guys. I'll increase the size from next time. Ta-da-dang. I will just increase it now itself. Ta-da-dang. Okay. Done. So who is the editor of the newspaper? The Worker. Is it visible now? The Worker. Who also wrote poems, Old Days, Old Ways. It is Mary Gilmore. Did you know that? It is Mary Gilmore. Right, Mary Gilmore. Then, the major modernist philosophical poet who wrote on serious themes. It is R.D. Fitzgerald. R.D. Fitzgerald. I just gave you a lot of questions so that you will be able to remember. Okay, you should remember everyone. Yeah. Everything I have marked. So, I will post this in the group today itself, now itself. WhatsApp me if you have not joined our Telegram group. WhatsApp me, then you will get a Telegram link and join immediately. All the previous PDF and this PDF will be there. Okay guys. So I hope you loved this. I had included lots of new information. All the best to you. Good night. I will be back with more videos. Let us study really, really hard and all of you are going to pass this time. Do your best. Okay, guys? Bye-bye. Good night. God bless you.